My goji patch goes from right here all the way down to the end of my property, and these came from two plants that were planted in February of 2015. It is now September of 2017, so they've had about 2.5 years of growth, and from two root cuttings, it's essentially taken over much of there. Many of them I have had to, the runners I've had to mow down repeatedly, and they still come up. And in this video I want to talk about how to grow them, and there's a lot of misconceptions about how they are grown. For example, most people think that because they are a nightshade that they should be grown the same way as a tomato, which is a terrible misconception. Tomatoes are natively a jungle vining plant, whereas goji berries are a hardwood, mountainous, extreme weather crop. They have very hot, long, and dry summers and very cold winters. In the native area in China where they're historically grown, and all of the natural water that they get comes in either flood irrigation in the spring or snow melt throughout the winter. People think that because they're nightshades they need heavy fertilizer and all these nutrients. That's the farthest thing from the truth. I have put possibly 2 or 3 gallons of water per plant in the entire time that I've had these, and they have become an invasive plant in my yard. They don't need special treatment. And if you can look at the ground here, you can see that all of the normal grass is dead. That's because we haven't had any natural water. It hasn't rained here since March. It's now September. Last year we had a very significant drought as well, and the only plant that really thrived was the goji berry. I live in eastern Washington. It's a high desert region. We have very harsh, cold winters and very hot, long, and dry summers. And this plant is very ideal for this environment. And when I first decided to plant these, I was looking for any berry that had what we call good growth parameters, something that doesn't need a lot of water over the summer, so it could survive without man-made irrigation, and something that could survive a harsh winter. And goji berries appeared to fit that, and so I got a total of 5 plants. 2 of them I planted in the front yard, 3 of them in the backyard, and they are overtaking the backyard just the same as here. And it has been the most producing plant that I have. And if you want to come take a look, see all these ones that they're growing up and on my rose bushes. And look all in here, it's just a very thick, heavy producing crop. And again, I have not watered this since, well, okay, I have not watered it. Nature has not watered it either since March. And these are the ones that are growing 12 feet away from where I planted it 2 years ago. See all these things. Birds love these, and you can see some of there's none right here, but some of them, entire areas will be picked by birds. But even after the birds, it's still a very heavy crop, and underneath all of the foliage, it's extremely thick. As far as propagating these things goes, they propagate either by runners, by seed, or by softwood cuttings. I've had limited success with cuttings. Only a few of them survived. Never really bothered with seed, but they send out runners and they sprout out everywhere. If you want to come along, you see, like these are all gojis. They came up within the past few months. There's one over there. These over here. These are all gojis. There's, say this, which are already setting flower. most information you have on the goji says that they don't give fruit until the 3rd season. That's only true if you start from seed. Because anything that comes from root cuttings, that's already a more mature plant. I got a partial crop, maybe several hundred berries my first year. The second year was probably 10,000. And if you have one growing, they will grow and they will become an invasive species without any assistance. You have more over here, these just coming up, and you can easily just dig these out and give them to anyone. Got more over here, and I don't know if you can see it in the camera, there's all these are honeybees, but I have seen so many different pollinators in my yard. There's like a cloud of them over here. I don't know how well this can be captured in the video, but there's a ton of bees, depending on time of day. In the morning, I see a lot of butterflies. There's some parasitic wasps, tachinid flies. These are magnets for every kind of pollinator that you could imagine. And it's just great for bringing them to your yard. Come down here. Let's see. This is an area that, for some reason, the birds don't like to get into. And you see just like there's just this really, really thick, heavy growth right here. And these just crawled up on this. It was supposed to be a greenhouse, but where I live, we have some really severe winds in the spring. And so they tore the greenhouse apart. And the gojis have crawled on it and are using it as a trellis and are just covering it with this really thick growth. And what I'm going to do in a few minutes is go around and harvest all this and just see what kind of harvest we can get today. And this is not going to be all the harvest we can get. It's just what I'm harvesting today, because these produce from March until the first freeze around here. It's usually in October, so these things produce for a good 7 months out of the year. And the way I harvest them is just like this. I don't bother picking every berry. That would be way too time consuming. And because these are basically an invasive species, I just cut off the branches, and that's kind of my way of pruning, aside from mowing down all the other plants, because these things will just absolutely take over everything. And so you don't have to worry about how much of your plant you're cutting off. Just cut off all these things and you will get just a ton of berries. Yeah. Right now I'm in the middle of harvesting. As I harvest, I cut these and got this much in a few minutes, and I probably have a good hour's worth of work to do out here if I really want to harvest all of them. I'm not going to, because I'm that lazy, and it's just so much work to harvest all of them. But just 2 plants left undisturbed will produce many pounds. Getting tangled in all the other. Just so much of these. These are what the guy Nicanor, your cameraman, described as a survival plant. But they survive a plant because they will survive on their own without your help. These aren't a crop in the normal sense. You don't have to fertilize and water or any of that. If you plant them, they will grow, provided you live in the right regions. If you live in high desert, which a lot of the western United States is suitable for it. I know they've tried growing them in California with disastrous results, because California does not have cold winters. We have freezing winters here, and so we get beautiful stuff like this. And now I have to put these all afternoon long, because there's just so many, and these are relatively thin compared to some of the other clusters I've got. Some of these, they already got picked with the birds. Okay, so this is what I've gathered in maybe 10 minutes of going through with clippers and just clipping off those branches. I've got 9 pounds. We zeroed it out so the weight of the bin doesn't count. There's the leaves, which are edible. I've never eaten them, and I've heard there may be health concerns about some of their content, so I don't eat them. But the weight is the branches, the leaves, and the berries, and it's 9 pounds from what I've got in maybe 10 minutes. And if you want to turn around and look at here, you can see there's still many thousands more, and it's really hot right now, and so I want to go back inside pretty soon. So I can't spend 2 hours out here clipping them, because it would take that long to get all these goji berries, because there is so freaking many. I'll come back and do it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. But these things produce like crazy, and I don't remember if I mentioned it earlier. You guys found that they actually do produce better when they are stressed and when they are not watered. And as I did mention before, we have not had any measurable rainfall since March, and it is now September. So this is what they do with no water. So if you live in a dry land environment with a harsh winter, inland Pacific Northwest, Montana, probably Nebraska, that area would probably do good with these too. So these really are a great plant, and I expect within the next decade or so that they're going to become a major, at least specialty crop within the U.S. Yeah. That's about all I got to say about goji berries for now.